Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel again. I'm going to record Gauteng Prelim exam 2023 paper 2 question 4, and I'll come back to question 2 and 3 later on. I just wanted to do a quick recording because I'm kind of tight on time, so I'll come back to question 2 and 3. I'll post question 2 and 3 a day after or 2 days after, but currently I'll post this one first. Okay, so this question basically deals with inventory valuation and internal control, right? It's a 35 marks question. We are prescribed to finish it in 25 minutes. Right, it says Jonas Sock Company. You are provided with the information relating to Jonas Sock Company. The business is owned by Jonas Nkuna, who sells compression socks for athletes. And if you're an athlete, you know what compression socks do. Then the business currently uses the periodic inventory system. Right, remember when you do inventory systems or methods, right, you've got the periodic, right, and the first in, first out method, that is the FIFO, right, of inventory valuation. That's the method for inventory. So what happens with the periodic inventory system, it's whereby inventory is updated at a particular time. That's where they do stock taking and all that. Then the other method, inventory, is valuated immediately once you take stock. They recalculate the cost of sales, and the accounting system that you should have done in grade 11 kind of maps it up all. So the periodic inventory system, once the question says using periodic inventory system, it's easy to calculate the cost of sales, because you don't calculate cost of sales at every sale, right? So cost of sales calculated at the end, right? Then required calculate the following on 31 March. Right, so we're calculating on the 31st of March. Value of closing stock using the FIFO, first in, first out. Right, remember we've got 3 inventory valuation methods. Right, number 1, we have the first in, first out. Then we have weighted average. Then we have the specific identification method. I think that was kind of like referred to, I think, in question 1 of paper 1. Right, if I remember very well, if my memory serves me well, it was referred to question 1. Right, specific identification method. So those are the 3 methods that you're required to know. Right, the way you calculate closing stock for the 3 of them is different. Right, it becomes more tricky when you're using the weighted average, but once you understand it, it becomes simple. The specific identification method, that's the most straightforward you can ever get. And then the first in, first out, once you get it as well, it becomes easy to calculate the value of closing stock and the value of cost of sales as well. So stock holding period in days, right? Stock holding period in days, right? That is basically average stock divided by cost of sales multiplied by 365, right? So you're calculating it in days, right? So that's average stock over cost of sales divided by times 365 over 1, that's 365 days. So here they said use what? Closing stock. So if you're not given the opening stock, you are permitted to use the closing stock as your numerator. So here they specified use closing stock, but in case you have opening stock and closing stock, you have to use the average of the 2. Jonas Nkuna suspect that socks are being stolen from the shop despite security cameras being installed and the implementation of proper division of duties. Provide a calculation to justify his concern. right? That's worth 6 months. That will be a lot of calculation. What can Jonas do to improve the internal control of stock? Right, state 2 points, right? So each point will give you 2 marks, right? Then in February, while his buyer was on leave, Jonas decided to buy stock. Jonas saw cheaper stocks and bought them. Explain with evidence why it was not a good idea to buy cheaper stocks, right? So you need to explain that or still go to the question. An investigation revealed that Jonas's brother, the driver at the store, bought 180 pair of socks at staff price and sold them to his marathon team members at a higher price. Right. This is against the company's policy of employees selling their products. What should Jonas say to his brother when dealing with this matter? Provide 2 points. That's a basically tricky one. What do you say to your brother if he did that? Right. But company policy is company policy. We'll deal it with as we get to it. Now let's get to the information. The following information appears in the records of Jonas Stock Company for year ended 31 March 2023. Right, stock on hand, that is on the first day of the year. That's the opening balance. Right, it was 1,290 pairs of socks. Right, they are valued at 160. With the total cost price of 206,400. Then purchases for the year. So if total purchases that are 16,000. So your purchases in June 2022, September 2022, November 2022, then February 2023. This is where the first in, first out method kind of like kicks in, right? Once you're given that information, right? So the total value of stock is 3,040,500. That's total value of stock purchased during the financial year, right? Then returns from February purchases, right? Remember, these returns are specific, right? It becomes very handy when you're calculating your value of closing stock. It becomes very handy. Remember, to calculate value of closing stock, you use the number every stock that was bought at a particular price retains its original price when calculating the value of closing stock. So once you're told that returns are done in February, that means they only affect February purchases. You cannot deduct them from any other purchases, right? So they only affect February purchases. Stock on hand, 31 March 2023. That's the last day of the year. Right? It was 2,900. Right? And you are not given any value. Neither you given you're not given unit price, neither you given the value. Then sales of stock 14,000. I have to say 14,000 stocks that were sold. I are not given the selling price, neither the selling price per unit or the total value of the sales. Right, you are provided the information related to the dose electricity. Now that's a separate question. Right, we'll come back to that. Let's first answer this one. Right, okay. So number of stock that are sold is 14,000. Right, that's the number of stock that are sold. So let's try and work out our question. Calculate the value of closing stock using the FIFO method. So first of all, what you need to do is let's go back to the question. Right, we have this 14,000 that was sold. So the 14,000 that was sold, right? We can like guarantee that it's first in, first out. That means the oldest stock is sold first. So of the 14,000, we know that this is gone, right? 1,290 opening stock was sold because that was the first in, right? So that's the whole idea, right? Then of the 14,000, right, I'll tell you this 4,000 is gone because we're not yet on 14,000, right? Of the 14,000, this is gone. Then again from the 14,000, right, this is 5. So somewhere here, right, from 5,050, because 4,000 plus 4,000, that will give you 8,800 plus 1,290, that will give you around almost around 11,000. So that means on this 5,000 we have some stock that should be part of the opening stock, right, on this 5,000. So should have stock that's part of the closing stock, sorry, right? So since you're given stock on hand 2,900, right, you're given stock on hand, so what you need to do, you do what you call a bottom up. So you can either use this method if you are not given the closing stock or the closing number of units, number of closing units, right? You do the top to bottom, but if you're given number of closing units, use the bottom up, right? So we've got 2,900 units that we should get at the end of the day, right? And what are they valued at, right? So if you say 2,900, that's the remaining. Remember, the last stock to be bought should remain, should be still be in what, in our warehouse, right, or in the stores, right? So we have 2,900, but the last to be purchased was 2,160, right? But if you check, we have this return here. That means of the 2,160 that were bought, 360 was returned. So our closing stock should comprise of this, but minus the what, the 360, right? So what we do is we'll say the closing stock will have 2,160 minus 360. So all these at 150, right? Then if you say that's 2,160 minus 360, right, you're going to get at 1,000. This will give you 1,800, right? That will be 1,800. So at the end of the day, we have 2,900 total number of closing stock, number of units, right? So we remove 1,800 from 2,900, we remain with 1,100, right? So we need to get that 1,100 from this year. So out of the stock that was bought in November, only 1,100, right, we're going to part of the closing stock, right? So here we're going to say 1,100 at 210, 1,100 at 210, right? So this plus this, right, it will give you 2,900, right? It will give you 2,900. So this is at 200, sorry, I put that already. So 1,800 times 150, that will give you 270,000. Then 1,100 times 210, that will give you 231. Then these two will give you a total of 0,001 0 5, that's 501,000. 501,000, that's the value. That's what they want you to calculate. Then it says calculate the stock holding period in days, right? So stock holding period in days, this is what we have. Remember I said it's use closing stock, right? So it's closing stock over cost of sales times 365. Right, so our closing stock we have, right? What are our cost of sales? What's the value of our cost of sales? What's the value of our cost of sales? So our cost of sales will basically be given by the value of total purchases for the year plus opening stock. So it will be this plus this minus returns, right, minus closing stock, right? So this will be given this way. So our closing stock will be 501,000. Then our cost of sales, that will be opening stock, that's 206,400 plus total purchases 3,040,500 right, minus 501 right, minus the returns here, 360 by 150. Right, 360 by 150, what do you get? 54,000. Or multiply by 365 over 1. So this will give you the total value that you get here will be 206,400 minus plus 3,014,500 minus 501,000 minus 54,000. So this will give you 2,691,900. Right. So that's your cost of sales, right? They didn't give you cost of sales directly here to calculate, right? So this is your opening stock plus total purchases minus closing stock minus returns, right, to get your cost of sales, right? So that's how you calculate it. Right, unfortunately they didn't give you the cost of sales here to calculate, right? Let me just check if there is information that relates to cost of sales, right? There's nothing, right? You just figures, and they never really told you what was the cost of sales, so you needed to calculate, right? But it's not something that is difficult, right? So dividing 501,000 divided by 2,691,900, then times 365, right? This will give you roughly 68 days. Alright, 68 days. Right, you can calculate it in months. If you say times 12 over 1, right, it will give you months, but this they said in days. Right, remember the question was specific in days. So stock holding period is 67 days, which is roughly 2 months. Right, it's roughly 2 months. Right, so what basically it means is it takes them 67 days from the time they purchase stock to the time that they sell it. Then the next question says Jonas and Kuna suspect that stock are being stolen from the shop despite security cameras being installed and the implementation of proper division of duties. Provide a calculation to justify his concern. Right, so at the end of the day, I wonder why they gave 6 marks for that. Right, so at the end of the day, you need to basically justify that his concern are true. Right, so they didn't ask you the value of stock that was stolen. They just asked you to basically justify his concern. So at the end of the day, what we have is what number of stock should we have at the end of the day. So we have 1260, right? So we've got 1290 plus total purchase, which is 16,010. Remember, only looking at the number of units, 16,010 minus 360, right, minus 14,000. So basically what I did is this year is the opening stock, and we have total purchases for the year minus returns minus total number of stock that was sold. Right, so this basically should be equal to the 2,900 of the remaining stock. Right, so let's see if we get the same, because that's what happened. Right, so it's 1,290 plus 16,010 minus 360. Remember, 360 is the returns minus sales 14,000. Right, you see, you get here, you're getting what? 2,940. Right, but according to the closing stock, is 2,000 what? 900. That means number of units, 40 units have been stolen. So it says provide the calculation justify his concern, right? So there are 40 units that are what? That are missing. Let me just check if I got the figures correct. 1610, 1290, 360, 14,000. Yeah. So 40 units are missing. Right, that's 40 units that are missing. Then what can Jonasi do to improve the internal control of stock? State 2 points. Right, remember the question says installed and the implementation of division of duties. So mostly it's kind of like they kind of like see the answers that learners write. So mostly learners, the first thing that they do is security, right? Then division of duties. So all these has been implemented, right? So what else can they do to make sure that the stock does not get stolen? What else can they do? Because they installed cameras, right? Cameras are there. what else can they do? What are the other things that can be implemented? Right, because cameras are there, division of duties there. What else? Right, so I would say some of the things that you can do, it's all about improving security, because it's stock, right? If you've divided duties, right, so the next thing that is there is to kind of like improve on the security, right? Intensify security a little bit. So what they can install sensors on items of stock. Those kind of sensors that they have to be, once you scan it to purchase it, the sensor is deactivated, like every other shop does have. So they install sensors inside that once they scan through, right, the purchases for scan for purchasing, then the sensors are deactivated, right? So they can store those sensors, right? Then they can do implement physical security searches when employees are leaving the premises. So this can be employees or customers, right, to make sure that every product that they have has been purchased, right? And the security can check documentation as well, right? So those are things that they can do. And so they can install sensors on items of stock, right? They can implement physical security searches when employees are leaving, not only employees, as well as when customers are leaving as well, right? Just to make sure that everything that they have has been purchased. Then moving along, right, then says in February his buyer was on leave. Jonas decided to buy stock. Jonas saw cheaper stocks and bought them. Explain with evidence why it was not a good idea. Right, if you look at in February, the specific about it, right, this is what happened in February, right? So 2,160 stocks were bought at what, 150. They were cheaper, of course, yes, they were cheaper. But then if you look at it, right, in that same month, right, they had returns of what, of 360. That is twice. They've never had any returns. So the reason why it was not a good idea, the returns were too high, right? So they've never had returns before, but now they had returns of 360, right? Of 360 compared to nothing from previous purchases, right? So the return just got too high, right? Then again, the second thing that we can bring in, remember, we're looking at the stock, right? At the end of the day, those socks, right? Remember, the 1900 socks were still in stock. They were still in stock. So there was kind of like a higher volume of what of the number of units that were still in stock. Why did you buy them? Did they really need to buy to purchase the stock anyway, right? You wonder. So at the end of the day, you had what we call a high volume of closing stock of 2,900 compared to previous of 1,290. Let's say you didn't buy that stock, right? Let's say that stock was not bought, right? So what will be having if you didn't buy the 2,190? Remember, we calculated to be 1,800. So in actual fact, right, if that stock was not bought, right, remember when we calculated up here, this is the remaining number of units that were bought in February, so it's 1,800. So in actual fact, you only be having what? 1,100. So if that stock was not bought, right, the value of closing stock will be what? This year will be 1,100, which is pretty close to what? To the previous one of 1,290. But now we have high value of what? Of closing stock. Like investigation revealed that Jonas' brother, the driver at the store, bought 180 pairs of socks at staff price and sold them to his marathon team members at a higher price. Talking about marathon, that's my trade. Right, just something nothing to do with accounting. I love running marathons. This is against the company's policy of employees selling their products. What should Jonas say to his brother when dealing with this matter? So his brother must tell Jonas that what he did was unethical, as it is against company policy. So it's unethical, right? So it's kind of like not a good idea, for Jonas' brother to do that, right? It set a trend. So if Jonas doesn't do it, his brother, in a proper way, it kind of like creates a culture, because remember, organization culture is all about from top down. Organizational culture is never bottom up, it's top down. Whatever the people at the top are doing, that's exactly what the people at the bottom will do, and that basically will influence the ethical conduct of every level in the business, at every level of authority in the business. So if he doesn't deal with it, right, with his brother, that means that will promote other employees to do the same. So that will make the company lose profits, because remember, the idea of unveiling, right, or availing rather, discounts for employees, it's employee benefit. But now if you take that benefit and you use it to kind of like defraud the company, if I have to say, or that will lead to company losing more revenue, right? That would be unethical, because all that was done was basically to allow employees to buy at a lower price, not for business purposes, but for use. So once you're buying to resell, right, you shouldn't be buying at a discount or employee discount. Should be buying at a normal price because you are reselling them. So that was unethical. Right. So then the other thing as well, he sold them to his you know marathon running members, right? And at the end of the day, if they are not happy with them, there will be conflict regarding the returns. How they're going to do to make returns, right? And how is you going to explain now the way the product going to be returned? Let's say maybe half of the socks that you sold to his members have to be returned, right? What is going to happen? Is the brother going to allow him to return the socks or not? So there will be conflicting interests that will arise because of that. So returns of the goods will be quite challenging. Right, so there will be a big challenge in terms of how the goods are returned. Then the other thing is definitely the brother has to go through disciplinary hearing. Right, because if he doesn't deal with the brother, in a decisive manner, that will promote every other employee to do the same. Then this will lead to more revenue being lost, right? Because if every employee now, because they know it's a policy, right? Employees are not allowed to resell the products, right? Say this is again company's policy of employees selling their products, right? You're not allowed to, right? You can only purchase the product for personal use, not for reselling. So if he doesn't, properly deal with it or bring it to discipline hearing or, deal with it decisively, right, it will lead to every other employee doing exactly the same because he cannot keep a secret. That's one thing that, companies can do. People who know. And once people know, everyone start buying, right, and resell. So it will become like a very difficult for them to control that situation. So it's better to control it while it's starting, or when they find out about it, rather than leave it until every other employee is doing it and start trying to address it. You have created a culture already, so you need to deal with it decisively, right? It's his brother. There's conflict of interest, of course. How do you deal with your brother? Right, it's your brother. Always the case that but you can't do that. I'm your brother, but I'm not running a family. I'm running a company. You understand? So there has to be a different treatment to the relationship outside of work. I know, it's a very challenging situation. That's where accountants are called to do the right thing no matter what. Right? What are you going to do? Are you going to do the right thing or you're going to bend the rules because you know the person? So that's where the issue of ethics and ethical conduct comes in. So what are you going to do? Are you going to deal with it once and for all, or you're just going to leave it because it's your brother? But if you leave it, on the other hand, some other employees will learn about it and they'll do exactly the same. And how are you going now to separate? Are you going to deal with other employees and leave your brother? So it becomes a trend. So you need to kind of like stop that kind of behavior, and doing that your brother will be a good example to every employee that you're serious about what you are doing about your policies. One thing that you don't want to do is just have policies in business for the sake of tick a box, rules based, that I have a policy. but that policy is not implemented, especially when it's broken by people closer to you. So you just have to be careful, with that. So at the end of the day, if he doesn't deal with his brother decisively, he's kind of like promoting other employees to do the same. So the brother has to go through a hearing. I think that was the last question. Is there another? No, there's another one, internal control, I4.2. Right, let's look at the question. I say it's internal provided with information relating to DOS electronics. The shop has 3 branches and they sell one type of laptop. The owner is concerned that the figures provided reflect poor internal control and decision making. Identify one problem for each branch, quote figures in each case, and give advice on how to solve the problems. So basically what you are required here is to identify one problem. You quote a figure, then in each case give advice for each branch, right? There are 3 branches, so basically it's 1 mark for each, so you need 3 marks, right? Identify the problem for each branch, quote figures, then give advice. Right, then the branch that we have is information, right? We've got KwaZulu-Natal, Western Cape, and Gauteng. Right, we've got opening stock, units purchased, units sold, units as per fiscal count at the end of the year. Then selling price per unit. Then total sales, EFT and cash deposits. Right. Right, okay, let's look at the answering the question. Right, so if you look at this particular one, first you need to identify one problem, and for each branch, quote figures, right? Then in each give advice, right? For KZN, right? If we check, let's try and do some calculation. We'll do for every other, branch. Right, we have 120 units. Sometimes what may look like may not be like, plus 860 minus 885. So you got 95 units that should be in stock. Right, so let's calculate again. It's 120 opening plus purchase of 860 minus sales 885. So the number of units should be what? So the number of units are closing stock here should be 95. But you only have 25. That means out of the 95 there should be, that means there is stock missing. So for KZN, stock was stolen. Right. How many? 25 laptops missing. Right, so what can be done? Improve security by installing CCTV or segregation of duties or regular stock count. Then in Western Cape, right, if we calculate Western Cape again, right, for 250, I forgot calculate sales on the other one. 250 plus 1150 minus 1200 at 600. So this one is fine. So 1200 times 7,200, calculate number of sales, 8,640,000, which is fine. So it's only the high volume of stock here. So $600 laptops. What's the solution? They can reduce the number of stock being purchased or improve marketing campaigns for the region. Let's see the first one, if the sales are correct. That is 885 times 6,200, 5,847,000, which is perfectly fine. Let's go to the last one. The last one, GP branch, that's 400 plus 2,750 minus 2,900, that's 250. So this is correct. Then add 2,900 times 6,500, 8,850,000. Right, so there's a discrepancy here. Right, remember they're dealing with cash deposits and EFT, which always be a challenge when it comes to dealing with cash and high volume of sales. Right, so some laptop sold but cash was not accounted for. Right, so how much cash? That's this minus 80,850,000 minus 18 million minus 17,875,000. That's 975,000. Is only 17,875,000 was recorded. Right, what should be the solution to this? Right, number one, encourage customers to pay via EFT. Right, that's the other one. Right, then division of duties as well here. Right, what else can be done? What else can be done? Maybe make sure that followed by a notification and as well as the manager or whoever is in charge should be able to supervise on a daily basis in terms of the sales and the income. Or generally we talk about reconciliations on a daily basis and maybe weekly supervision by management. They request the bank statement and the balances to make sure that all the sales faces the sales ledger and the bank statement, that all sales are captured in the bank, right? And all cash sales are deposited correctly, right? So those are the other things that we can talk about in terms of supervision, that on a weekly basis the supervisor should be able to reconcile between the sales ledger and the bank statement, right, to make sure that everything is in order, right? So that will be the question, right, for question 4. It was simple and straightforward, so we just needed a little bit of calculation to get around that, right? Then I'll do the other question 2 and 3 later on. Hope you will be helped by this. Thank you so much. Thank you for your support as well.